My beloved child. Someone revealed a hidden secret about you to the person your heart quietly wonders about, and for a long moment, they couldn't find a single word to say. Not because the secret was dark, but because it shattered every assumption they had been carrying. It reached beyond appearances, beyond misunderstandings, beyond the version of you that life had allowed others to see. In that silence, something unexpected began to change. And before this story reaches its turning point, you may discover that the greatest truths are often the ones never spoken aloud. There are moments when the world believes it knows someone simply because it has watched them smile. Yet heaven sees what smiles often hide. It sees the prayers whispered after everyone has fallen asleep. It sees the battles fought without applause. It sees kindness offered where no reward could ever return. Those quiet chapters become invisible to most people. But never to me. Imagine a room filled with voices, each one trying to explain who you are. One remembers your mistakes. Another remembers your silence. Someone else recalls the day you walked away without knowing why your heart had become so heavy. Every person carries only one small piece of your story. Then another voice enters. It does not shout. It simply tells the part no one else knew. It speaks of the nights you chose forgiveness instead of revenge. It speaks of the dreams you buried so someone else could breathe easier. It speaks of the tears you refused to let anyone witness because you never wanted your pain to become another person's burden. That was the hidden secret. Not that you were perfect, but that your greatest victories happened where no audience existed. And as those words reached your soulmate in this fictional story, their heart became strangely quiet. Suddenly, memories they had dismissed returned with new meaning. Conversations they once overlooked began to echo differently. Tiny moments that seemed ordinary now felt like scattered pieces of a larger picture waiting to be assembled. Have you ever noticed how truth rarely arrives with noise? It often comes wrapped in stillness. Like dawn slowly replacing the night, it does not force anyone to see. It simply gives light, and allows willing hearts to recognize what was always there. That is why silence can sometimes speak louder than explanations. Because when genuine understanding arrives, arguments lose their power. Perhaps that is why this story begins here instead of at the ending. If everything were revealed at once, you would miss the quiet transformation unfolding beneath the surface. Real change rarely happens in a single conversation. It begins with one thought, then another, until an entire perspective has been gently rewritten. Your soulmate in this story did not suddenly know everything about you. Instead, one simple sentence refused to leave their mind. They carried far more than anyone realized. Those words followed them through the rest of the day. While walking. While working. Even while surrounded by people. They kept wondering what else had been hidden behind your ordinary moments. Questions have a remarkable way of opening doors that certainty keeps locked. And every question led them closer to seeing you not as they expected, but as you truly were. Meanwhile, you knew nothing about this unfolding chapter. You continued living your life, believing that unnoticed sacrifices simply disappeared into time. You assumed forgotten acts of compassion remained forgotten forever. But love has a mysterious way of collecting what the world overlooks. Not to place it on display, but to preserve its meaning until the right heart is ready to understand it. There is something deeply beautiful about being known beyond your reputation. Because reputations are built by crowds. Character is revealed in quiet places. The hidden secret was never about achieving greatness that everyone could admire. It was about remaining gentle after disappointment. Remaining generous after being misunderstood. Remaining hopeful after seasons that tempted you to become bitter. Those qualities rarely become headlines. Yet they leave fingerprints on eternity. As your soulmate reflected on everything they had just heard, another realization quietly emerged. If so much had been misunderstood, what else had they completely missed? That question became impossible to ignore. Sometimes the beginning of love is not attraction. Sometimes it is understanding. Real understanding. The kind that replaces assumptions with compassion. The kind that makes someone revisit every past interaction with fresh eyes. And just when they believed they had uncovered the entire truth, the person who revealed your hidden secret looked at them one more time. Then whispered. That isn't even the part they tried hardest to hide. And everything changed. My beloved child. Those final words settled into the silence like a single drop upon still water, sending unseen ripples farther than anyone expected. That isn't even the part they tried hardest to hide. Your soulmate looked up, searching for another explanation, another clue, anything that could make sense of what they had just heard. But the answer did not come immediately. Instead, there was a pause, the kind of pause that asks a heart to become patient before it receives another piece of the story. The greatest treasures are rarely uncovered all at once. They are revealed layer by layer, until the soul is finally ready to understand their value. The messenger smiled gently and continued. The strength everyone admires is not the remarkable part. Many people appear strong. What they never saw was how often your kindness survived disappointment. Those words lingered. Your soulmate remembered moments that once seemed insignificant. Times when you quietly stepped back so someone else could move forward. Moments when you accepted misunderstanding instead of creating conflict. They had noticed those events before, but never recognized the courage hidden inside them. How often does the world mistake gentleness for weakness? How often are quiet hearts underestimated simply because they refuse to compete for attention? The answer was beginning to unfold. Not with dramatic revelations, but with quiet recognition. Your soulmate realized they had spent so much time looking for extraordinary signs that they almost overlooked the extraordinary life hidden inside ordinary choices. That realization brought both peace and regret. Not regret because of something terrible. Regret because genuine beauty had been standing nearby while attention wandered elsewhere. The messenger spoke again. There was one evening when no one thanked them. Your soulmate frowned. What happened? They helped someone who would never remember their name. No applause. No celebration. No reward. Just a simple act of compassion that disappeared into an ordinary day. Except, nothing done with love is ever truly forgotten. Even the smallest kindness leaves an echo long after the moment has passed. Your soulmate became unusually quiet. Their thoughts traveled backward through conversations, shared smiles, unfinished sentences, and moments that had once seemed too ordinary to matter. One memory rose above all the others. There had been a day when your eyes carried a sadness you never explained. Instead of asking others to carry it, you chose to encourage someone else. At the time, it looked effortless. Now they understood. It wasn't effortless at all. It was courageous. Sometimes the strongest people are not those who never struggle. They are the ones who quietly decide that someone else's hope is worth protecting, even while searching for their own. That truth reached deeper than either of them expected. For the first time, your soulmate stopped wondering what they could receive from knowing you, and began wondering what they could learn from you. That single change of perspective altered everything. Because admiration built on appearances fades. Admiration rooted in character grows stronger with every new discovery. The messenger noticed the change. You see it now, they said softly. Your soulmate nodded, though words still refused to come. But there is one memory they have almost forgotten themselves. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. The silence felt meaningful instead of empty. Everyone remembers the day they were hurt, the messenger continued. But very few remember the day they chose healing. Your soulmate looked puzzled. What do you mean? There came a moment when they could have allowed pain to define every chapter that followed. No one would have blamed them if they had become distant, guarded, or bitter. The messenger paused. They almost did. Those 3 words carried unexpected weight. Because every heart reaches that crossroads. One path protects itself by closing. The other remains open despite uncertainty. Neither choice is easy. But only one allows hope to keep breathing. Your soulmate suddenly realized that the person standing in their memories had quietly chosen the harder road, and almost no one had noticed. Not because they wanted recognition. Because they believed love was meant to be lived. Not announced. A quiet smile appeared on your soulmate's face. It wasn't the smile of certainty. It was the smile of understanding beginning to bloom. Yet even then, the story was still incomplete. The messenger reached into an old wooden box resting beside them. Inside were several folded letters, carefully preserved by time. They lifted one from the stack, tracing its edges with thoughtful hands. This, they whispered, was never meant for public eyes. Your soulmate felt their heartbeat quicken. What is it? The messenger looked toward the horizon before answering. It contains the words they could never bring themselves to say, not because they lacked love, but because they feared those words might arrive too late. The letter remained unopened. Its seal was still unbroken. And as your soulmate slowly reached toward it, the messenger gently stopped their hand. Before you read what was written, you must first understand why it was never sent. My beloved child. Your soulmate slowly withdrew their hand from the unopened letter. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Some silences are empty. But this one was filled with questions. The messenger carefully turned the letter over, letting the light reveal the faded edges of the envelope. This has waited a long time, they said softly. Not because the words lost their meaning, but because the right moment had not yet arrived. Your soulmate couldn't take their eyes off it. There was something strangely familiar about the letter, even though they had never seen it before. It felt less like paper, and more like a doorway into a chapter that had been quietly unfolding all along. What did they want to say? Your soulmate finally asked. The messenger smiled with quiet understanding. Not yet. Instead, they pointed toward the horizon where the first rays of morning were beginning to color the sky. Tell me, the messenger asked, have you ever mistaken someone's silence for a lack of feeling? The question landed gently. Yet it carried unexpected weight. Your soulmate lowered their eyes. They remembered moments when you had paused before answering, times when your smile seemed to hide an unfinished sentence, evenings when you left without explaining everything that was resting on your heart. Back then, they thought your silence meant uncertainty. Now they wondered if it had meant something entirely different. The messenger continued. Some people speak because they are certain they will be understood. They remained quiet because they cared too deeply to let the wrong words create the wrong ending. That truth settled into the air like falling snow. Not every quiet heart is empty. Sometimes it is overflowing. Overflowing with hope. With caution. With prayers that never become conversations. Your soulmate suddenly remembered one particular day. You had looked as though you wanted to say something important. The opportunity was there. The moment was waiting. But instead, you simply smiled and wished them well. At the time, it seemed like an ordinary goodbye. Now it felt like a sentence left unfinished. The messenger nodded, as though they could see the memory forming. That was the day. The day, your soulmate whispered. The day they almost told you everything. A breeze passed between the trees. Even nature seemed to pause. They carried the words all the way to that meeting, the messenger said. They had rehearsed them more times than you could imagine. Every possibility had crossed their mind. What stopped them? Your soulmate asked. The messenger looked down at the unopened letter. Love. The answer sounded almost impossible. Your soulmate frowned. Love? Yes. They feared that speaking too soon might place a burden on your heart instead of bringing it peace. Sometimes love waits. Not because it is weak, but because it refuses to demand what another heart is not ready to give. That kind of patience is rarely noticed. Yet it is one of love's purest forms. The messenger finally broke the seal. The paper unfolded with a soft sound, as though it had been waiting years for this single moment. But instead of reading it aloud immediately, the messenger closed their eyes. These words were never written to convince anyone, they said. They were written simply because some truths deserve to exist, even if no one ever reads them. Then they began. If life leads us in different directions, I will still be grateful that our paths crossed. You taught me that kindness can appear quietly. You reminded me that hope still exists in ordinary moments. Even if these words remain unseen, I pray that one day you are loved as deeply as you deserve. Your soulmate felt their breath catch. There were no dramatic promises. No desperate pleas. Only quiet sincerity. It was the kind of love that asked for nothing in return. The kind that celebrates another person's happiness, even when it cannot stand beside them. A single tear rolled down their cheek before they even realized it. Not because the letter was sad, but because it revealed a heart they had never fully understood. The messenger folded the paper once more. You see, they whispered, the greatest secret was never hidden inside the letter. Your soulmate looked up, confused. It was hidden inside every day they chose to keep loving without becoming resentful. Those words echoed long after they were spoken. In that instant, every forgotten memory began connecting like stars forming a constellation. The encouraging message you sent when you were struggling yourself. The forgiveness you offered without announcing it. The quiet joy you found in seeing others succeed. None of it had been accidental. It had all come from the same place. A heart that refused to let hardship rewrite its character. Your soulmate felt as though they were meeting you for the very first time. But just as understanding began to replace every old assumption, the messenger reached into the wooden box once again. This time, they removed something entirely different. It wasn't another letter. It was an old photograph. The edges were worn. The colors had faded. On the back, written in careful handwriting, were just 7 words. This is where everything truly began. Your soulmate stared at the photograph, their heart filled with anticipation. Then they slowly turned it over. And what they saw made them question everything they thought they knew about your story. My beloved child. Your soulmate held the old photograph with trembling hands. It wasn't extraordinary at first glance. No grand celebration. No dramatic moment. Just an ordinary day, captured in a single frame. Yet the messenger watched closely, knowing that the smallest details often carry the greatest meaning. Look again, the messenger whispered. This time, your soulmate noticed something they had missed. In the background of the photograph, almost hidden from view, stood someone quietly helping another person without expecting to be seen. There was no audience. No applause. No one pointing a camera toward the act itself. The photograph had accidentally preserved a moment the world never intended to remember. And that person was you. Your soulmate stared in disbelief. So this. They whispered. This is the beginning? The messenger nodded. Not the beginning of your story. The beginning of understanding it. Everything suddenly connected. The unseen kindness. The unspoken prayers. The patient silence. The quiet courage. None of those moments had been isolated. They were threads woven together by a heart that chose compassion over recognition, grace over resentment, and hope over disappointment. For the first time, your soulmate realized they had been searching for remarkable signs, while the greatest evidence had been quietly present all along. The messenger gently took the photograph back and smiled. Many people spend their lives trying to be noticed. But the strongest souls often spend their lives trying to make others feel noticed. Those words settled deeply. Because true love is rarely loud. It is found in listening without rushing. In forgiving without keeping score. In encouraging someone when your own heart feels weary. In choosing kindness when no one is watching. That is the hidden secret that left your soulmate speechless. Not a mystery that changed who you were. A truth that finally revealed who you had always been. Your soulmate closed their eyes. Every misunderstanding lost its weight. Every assumption quietly faded. In its place came something far more meaningful. Respect. Not the kind built on admiration alone. But the kind born from seeing someone's character clearly for the first time. The messenger looked toward the horizon where the sunlight now filled the sky. Remember this, they said softly. The most beautiful parts of a person's life are often invisible until someone chooses to look with compassion instead of expectation. And perhaps that is the invitation hidden inside this story. To believe that no sincere act of love is ever wasted. That quiet faithfulness still matters. That the kindness no one applauds still leaves a lasting imprint. That every gentle choice shapes a future brighter than we can yet imagine. If this story stirred something in your heart, let it become more than a moment of reflection. Let it become a reminder to see others more deeply, to speak with more grace, and to never underestimate the quiet strength carried by ordinary people. For sometimes the greatest secret anyone can reveal is not what someone has accomplished, but who they have chosen to become. May your days be filled with wisdom, your heart remain open to compassion, and your journey be guided by hope, even when the path ahead is still unfolding. Until our next story. May peace walk beside you, and may you always remember that the truest light often shines most brightly in the places the world forgets to look. The end.